Okay, I'm going to use a site called distancetomars.com to illustrate how ludicrous the US national debt is. Now, here's a picture of the Earth, 100 pixels, which represents 12,756 kilometers on this scale. Now, if we were to go to the moon, this is how far away the moon would be. Okay, not too bad. But what if we were to want to extend our trip and go to Mars? Now, Mars, at the point in its orbit where it is actually closest to Earth, not furthest from Earth, but closest to Earth, this is how much further we would have to continue to travel to reach Mars. And remember, this is the closest point in its orbit. Now, when we talk about the US national debt, the official government rate is about $17 trillion. But anyone that actually understands anything about money knows that that is a bold-faced lie, just as the official inflation rate of less than 2% is a lie. Because there are some people that have bought a basket of food, the same basket every year, and that have told me that the price of their basket of food has more than doubled in just the past 3 years. So obviously the rate of inflation is much, much higher than 2%, probably at least 5 times higher, probably averaging somewhere around 10% over the past decade every single year, or somewhere around that range. Now, we finally reached Mars. Okay, now the reason I want to show you this is that the real national debt, which you can figure out by just looking at the projected expenditures, because the national debt of $17 trillion doesn't include Medicare, it doesn't include Social Security, which is a complete Ponzi scheme, it doesn't include the federal pension plan liabilities, so it doesn't include a lot of real liabilities that the US government has. Of course, in case you're contributing to Social Security and you just believe that you will never see a dime of the tens or perhaps even hundreds of thousands of dollars that you contribute to Social Security when you retire, then okay, you can say you can take that away. But as part of the US national debt, if you're looking at all these projected expenditures, and including servicing, which means the interest on our current national debt, and then you subtract the projected tax revenues that will be collected by the US government, you get a difference of $222 trillion. So that's a true US national debt. So if you lay that down side by side in $1 bills, would that reach Mars? The answer is yes, but could you go back? So now we're heading back from Mars to Earth. So do you think that that figure, the true US national debt of $222 trillion, would go to Mars in $1 bills laid side by side from Earth and then all the way back to Earth? Well, let's see. We're still going just past the moon and we're back to Earth. So the answer is yes. But a lot of people can't really fathom how much $220 trillion is. They hear that figure like $222 trillion and know it's a lot of money, but once you start talking, getting in that range of 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 100 trillion, 200 trillion, what's the difference? But it is a real figure. That is the real US national debt. So the answer is yes, it can make it from Earth to Mars and back. And in fact, we might even be able to get back to the moon. We're at the moon, but no, we can keep going. So, can we get back to Mars? And the answer is actually yes. Unbelievably, that the US national debt and $1 bills laid side by side can go from Earth to Mars, back to Earth, and back all the way back to Mars. But not only that, okay, so that's 3 times. How many times do you think $220 trillion in $1 bills laid side by side would go from Earth to Mars, back to Earth, do you think maybe it will make it back 2 round trips? Maybe 5 round trips? Maybe 8 round trips, 9 round trips, 10 round trips maybe at most. Most people would say. Because remember that $222 trillion of U.S. national debt is such a huge figure. It's really hard to understand how much that figure is. So we're back at Mars, but the answer is no, we can go back yet again all the way back to Earth. And so it's not 10 round trips, it's not 50 round trips, it's not even 100 round trips. Real U.S. national debt of $222 trillion can go from Earth to Mars, back to Earth, 316 round trips. That is 632 times. We just passed the moon, we're back to Earth. So you see how ludicrous the U.S. national debt is. And if you really think the central bank can really taper their QE without crashing every single bubble in the global capital markets today, including the U.S. stock market, which is a massive, massive unsustainable bubble, including the real estate markets in China and Hong Kong, which are massive, massive bubbles, and Thailand, massive bubbles, then you are insane. And in fact, if you even think that the U.S. can service the interest on this national debt without creating trillions of new dollars and all the time out of thin air, then you are insane. This illustration, this mission to Mars illustration that shows you how much the U.S. national debt really is, should make it crystal clear to everyone that given the history of fiat currencies, the average lifespan of 27 years of more than 700 fiat currencies before they collapse to their intrinsic value of 0. If you don't understand that, you should be converting your dollars, pounds, yen, euros into physical gold and physical silver now, because that is the safest place for your money to be. Then there is nothing I can tell you that will convince you of that. So hopefully this illustration makes the disastrous situation and consequence of the monetary policy, the immoral and criminal monetary policies of central banks crystal clear.